Hey Ben, want to go to Bishan Park for a jog?
Now, it's too hot. We could get heat stroke in this weather.
Huh, if not now, then when?
Hey guys, good question. When is a good time to visit the park? Let me introduce the Heat Vulnerability Assessment. The Heat Vulnerability Index is a measure of adverse health effects in extreme heat events. It depends on multiple factors, namely climate conditions, physical exposures, and level of activity. Level of activity refers to park users' intensity of physical activities, using heart rate as a proxy. Let us first look at the heat exposure map of Bishan Park. Notice how the exposure level is highly varied throughout the day. It generally follows the sun's movement across the sky, with the highest level of exposure when the sun is directly overhead and lowest during dawn and dusk.
Since Bishan is a city park, will the heat vulnerability be different for coastal parks such as Pasir Ris Park?
Let's see. Similar to Bishan Park, the heat exposure levels in Pasir Ris starts off low and increases as the sun rises. It also peaks in the early afternoon due to the overhead sun. However, do realize that the exposure levels remain in the low to middle range of the scale in the late afternoon, whereas Bishan Park had them in the high range. This is probably due to the cooling effect of the sea present along the coast of Pasir Ris Park. So Ben is right to say that it's too hot to go jogging now. Furthermore, climate change and El Niño events create hotter and drier conditions. Thus, physical exposure to high temperature, low humidity, and high intensity activity will definitely make you more heat vulnerable, which could lead to heat-related illnesses such as heat stroke, heat rash, and heat exhaustion. But that's not to say you can't exercise in this hour. Instead, park users like yourself can make use of such maps to decide what is a suitable activity to do at what time. For example, at this hour of high temperature, users can do yoga under shelter, minimizing physical exposure. Alternatively, you can take part in higher intensity activities when temperatures are cooler in the early morning or evening time. That's not all. Park planners can also use these heat vulnerability assessment maps to better plan and design park facilities. For example, planners can modify the environment by installing water features and promote shading from trees or pavilions to lower one's physical exposure, and hence decreasing heat vulnerability. This will ensure the sustainable use of parks in line with Singapore's Garden City policies.
Wow, I didn't know the assessment map would be so useful in helping me plan my exercise regime.
And I'm sure this map will be useful to park planners in minimizing the physical exposure to heat vulnerability so that more people can use the parks comfortably.
Yes, I'm sure the Heat Vulnerability Assessment Map will be beneficial to users and planners in promoting an active and healthy lifestyle with a better awareness of heat vulnerability through the public's usage of smart technologies.
This definitely makes it an active
Cool and smart.
park!